Fear doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it comes slowly, slipping into the small moments of our lives, through hesitation, through silence, through the subtle withdrawal of the heart. It creeps into our thoughts, making us question our worth, our future, our ability to be loved or to love fully. We don't always notice it at first. It hides beneath responsibilities, distractions, or past wounds that never really closed, but eventually, the weight makes itself known. The heaviness in your chest when you try to hope. The uneasiness when something good begins to blossom. Fear can convince even the strongest soul that they are not enough, or that what they desire is too far out of reach. But then, something shifts. Something beyond our own effort. Something beyond human logic. The air begins to clear. The inner voice that once repeated doubt and despair begins to grow quiet. And in its place, a new voice rises. Gentle, yet undeniable. It speaks of peace, of courage, of possibility. It whispers that what's coming is not a repetition of the past. It tells you that the worst is over and the best is not just possible, it's already unfolding. This isn't a fantasy or a fleeting hope. It's a divine movement, a spiritual awakening. Fear is losing its grip, and in the sacred silence it leaves behind, love is rising, steady, pure, guided. So I invite you to stay with me through this entire video. Listen, not just with your ears, but with your spirit. If this message speaks to your heart in any way, I encourage you to write your warmest wish in the comments, something you desire not only for yourself, but for the world, and include the number 77. This number resonates with spiritual energy, with alignment, with miracles quietly making their way to you. When you write your wish and that number, you're not just leaving a comment, you're setting something in motion. You're agreeing with the flow of divine timing. And as more of us do this together, we charge the atmosphere with love, healing, and light. Now let's return to the deeper truth. Fear is leaving, not because of willpower or control, but because something holy is lifting it from you. The heart that has been hardened for so long is starting to soften, not only yours, but theirs. The one you've thought about, the one who felt distant. There are things happening in their spirit that you cannot yet see. Resistance is being replaced by quiet reflection. Distance is being overtaken by gentle pull. They may not have the words for it yet, but there is a rising in them, a warmth, a realization, a longing they can't explain. Love is stirring, and it's pointing them toward truth, toward connection, toward you. What you're feeling isn't random. It's alignment. You're sensing the atmosphere change, the energy lighten, because you are spiritually sensitive to what's shifting beneath the surface. The burdens you've carried, the overthinking, the heartbreak, the wondering if you were enough, all of that is beginning to dissolve. You're not crazy for holding on. You were simply tuned into something your soul knew before your mind could understand. And now, all that was clouded is coming into view. Slowly, yes, but clearly. You're not chasing anymore. You're attracting. You're not begging anymore. You're receiving. Love is making its way home. You see, when fear begins to leave, we also start to reclaim parts of ourselves we forgot. The joy we silenced. The playfulness we suppressed. The vulnerability we packed away for safety. These pieces are returning now, not to make you feel exposed, but to make you whole, to remind you of who you truly are. And in doing so, you become a mirror for the one you love. You awaken something in them they've tried to bury. You become a signal, a light, not through pressure, but through presence. The quiet certainty of someone who has faced the darkness and still chooses love. Let yourself feel that. Let yourself believe it. You don't have to wait for an external confirmation to trust what you already sense deep inside. You are rising, even if you've been still. You are healing, even if the process feels invisible. And they are too. In the silence, in the space between, there is movement. You may not hear the words yet. You may not see the actions yet, but the preparation is unfolding. The timing is aligning. And the love that once felt too fragile to survive is now being given sacred strength to endure. Let this moment be a return to yourself, to your faith, to your knowing. Everything that once felt scattered is coming back together. The questions are fading, the clarity is blooming, and all of it is being woven together by a force greater than any fear, greater than any doubt. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. What you feel is real, and it is rising. Sometimes transformation begins long before the world can see it. The most meaningful shifts don't always come with loud declarations or grand gestures. Often, they happen in silence, in the privacy of someone's heart, in the quiet moments of reflection, in the spaces where only God can reach. You may be tempted to believe that nothing is changing, especially when the outside seems still. But stillness is not the same as stagnation. Stillness can be sacred. It can be the preparation before movement, the breath before the next step. And within that stillness, something beautiful is unfolding. Fear is dissolving, and love is taking root. You are not waiting in vain. This moment in your life is not about delay, but about deepening. Everything you've experienced, every closed door, every delayed message, every unanswered moment, has been working on a deeper level to build your spiritual strength, to restore your clarity, and to refine your understanding of what love truly is. Love is not panic. Love is not desperation. Love does not chase or manipulate. Real love, divinely inspired love, is patient. It's anchored in peace. It gives without fear and receives without guilt. And that's what's being awakened in you now. You are being prepared to receive a higher love, and so are they. But this preparation doesn't always look romantic. Sometimes it looks like tears. Sometimes it looks like solitude. Sometimes it looks like letting go of everything you thought you had to be in order to be worthy. It looks like facing the parts of you that still whisper doubt. The parts that ask, "Am I really enough?" The parts that wonder if love will always be just out of reach. But here's the truth. You are enough. You always were. The love that's coming into your life isn't about fixing you. It's about meeting you, seeing you, loving you in the light and in the shadow. And that can only happen when fear steps aside. It's easy to look at someone else and think they're the problem, that they're not ready, that they're too closed off. But what if their silence is their own process? What if their distance isn't rejection but reverence? What if they feel something so deep that it scares them into stillness? The soul often retreats when it senses the weight of something real. And love, real love, is weighty. It carries the power to change everything. Not just the relationship, but the person. And not everyone is ready to become who they need to be to hold that kind of love yet. But readiness is building, quietly, slowly. And just as you are learning to trust again, to open again, so are they. Not in the same way, not at the same pace, but still moving in divine rhythm. You don't have to force it. What is real doesn't need to be rushed. It needs to be revealed, and that's what's happening. The light within you is becoming more visible, not because you're trying harder, but because fear is losing its grip. Love is rising because it was always meant to. Think about all the times you nearly gave up, the moments you said, "This is too much, I can't keep hoping, I can't keep believing." And yet, something inside wouldn't let you quit. That wasn't stubbornness. That was alignment. That was spirit. That was divine love, refusing to let you abandon what you were destined for. Sometimes, the most sacred guidance sounds like a whisper saying, "Keep going, just a little longer." Not because you're chasing someone, but because you're being drawn to something meant for your soul. And while you wait, if you can call it waiting, life is not paused. You are still being shaped. You are still creating, growing, healing, laughing, learning. Your story is not incomplete without another person. It is simply being expanded. And when love returns, it won't complete you. It will complement you. It will recognize your depth. It will respect your growth. And it will rise to meet you where fear once lived. So let yourself be soft again. Let your heart breathe. Don't close off in anticipation of pain. Don't retreat just because you don't know when it's coming. You don't need to know how or when. You only need to stay open. Because what's meant for you is not being delayed. It's being made right. What's coming is not rushed. It's being prepared. And the person you're thinking of, they feel the shift too, even if they don't have the language for it, even if they pretend they don't. The pull you feel in your soul, that quiet knowing, it's not fantasy. It's faith. It's the echo of a divine plan that's slowly coming into view. So trust it. Trust the stillness. Trust the process. Trust that love is not rising by accident. It's rising because God is behind it all. Every pause, every restart, every silent moment that made you feel forgotten. None of it was in vain. None of it was wasted. You are being guided. You are being loved. And very soon, that love will take form. Not as a dream, but as a reality that fear can no longer block. Stay open. Stay soft. Love is not coming. Love is already here. It's rising. There comes a moment in the quiet journey where everything starts to feel strangely familiar. Not because you've been here before, but because your spirit has always known this was the path. It's like the air carries something sacred, a kind of invisible invitation that says, "This is the direction. Keep walking." You may not see the destination, but you feel its presence. You feel the calm starting to grow louder than the noise. You feel the lightness gently replacing the heaviness. This is the evidence that fear is losing its voice, and that something much softer, much wiser, is beginning to speak on your behalf. Love. You don't have to fight to be seen anymore. You don't have to prove your worth or convince someone to stay. That chapter is over. What's ahead is recognition. It's a love that sees you clearly, without needing you to shrink, explain, or disguise any part of yourself. It's not love born out of loneliness or urgency, but out of alignment and peace. And when fear finally moves aside, this kind of love doesn't just appear, it returns, because it was never far. It was just waiting for the right time to be safe. We often assume that healing is only about letting go, but sometimes healing makes space for something to come back. Something real, something sacred, something that couldn't thrive in a heart still gripped by fear. The person you've held in your heart may have walked away, grown silent, or faded into uncertainty. But what if they weren't rejecting you? What if they were retreating into their own process of becoming? What if God needed them to face their fear before they could step into your life with the kind of love you deserve? Not a love that runs, but one that remains. And now, On the other side of that silence, something new is forming. You're no longer standing still. You've done the inner work. You've cried and let go and forgiven and prayed, even when you had no words. And whether or not they know it, your journey has made a way for theirs. The energy you've released, the hope, the softness, the surrender, has rippled beyond you. It's touched the one you love. It's made room for them to see, to feel, to be drawn. Not by guilt, not by pressure, but by truth. The kind of truth that doesn't need convincing. The kind of truth that simply is. And now, they are noticing. Something in them is awakening. That familiar pull in their chest isn't confusion. It's clarity, trying to break through the layers of fear they once used to protect themselves. The thoughts they can't shake, the dreams that feel too real, the moments of peace that carry your presence. None of this is random. It's a quiet calling, a reminder, a holy alignment of time and transformation. They are not who they used to be, and neither are you. What love is preparing to bring you is not a repetition of the past. It is a complete redirection, a higher expression, a healed version of something you once thought was lost. The story isn't restarting, it's evolving. And the fear that once stood in the way has done its part. It showed you what mattered. It made you face your wounds. It made them face theirs. And now, love is rising not because everything is perfect, but because everything is finally real. That's what makes this sacred. You're not building on fantasy. You're building on faith, on patience, on spiritual timing. The waiting wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The silence wasn't rejection. It was reset. And the ache you felt wasn't emptiness. It was expansion. Love had to make space in both of your hearts, and it's still making space now. Let yourself breathe that in. Let it settle deep in your chest, the knowing that nothing was wasted, that every delay had a purpose, that every no was simply a not yet. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were being held through it all, guided even in your confusion, loved even when it felt like no one was listening. And now, the tide is turning. Not dramatically, but deliberately, with purpose, with care, with divine precision. So don't rush to the finish. Don't push for the proof. You don't need confirmation from them to trust what you already feel. You don't need permission to believe that something holy is unfolding in your favor. You are safe to trust again. You are safe to hope again. And as fear leaves, it creates a sacred opening for love to enter, not in pieces, but in fullness, not as a test, but as a gift, not just for them, but for you. There is something powerful about quiet growth, the kind that happens when no one is watching, when you're not performing, when you're not trying to impress or prove. Just you, raw and honest, healing in the dark. It's in these moments that real transformation happens. Not because you're chasing something, but because you're surrendering everything that was never truly you. The false identities, the forced timelines, the anxious expectations, they all start to fall away. And what's left is something real, something soft but unbreakable, something rooted. That's what love rises from. Not noise, not performance, but truth. You are not the same person who once begged for clarity. You are not the version of yourself that doubted your worth every time someone pulled away. You've been through the fire of uncertainty, and you're coming out whole, not because everything has gone perfectly, but because you've learned to trust something greater than circumstance. You've stopped placing your peace in another person's hands. You've learned how to hold space For others, yes, but mostly for yourself. That space you've carved out in your spirit has become a sanctuary for what's sacred to enter. That's why fear is leaving. That's why love is finally rising. You've made room. And while it may still feel quiet, don't mistake the quiet for nothingness. The stillness holds movement you cannot see yet. The person your heart is tied to may still be silent, still caught between their thoughts and emotions. But silence doesn't mean absence. Distance doesn't mean disconnection. Souls can feel each other across any space, the same way you feel a gentle warmth rise for no reason at all, the same way their name still brings a deep calm to your chest. It's because that connection is real. It was planted in spirit, not in logic. And spirit doesn't forget. It doesn't walk away. It waits. It whispers. And it grows quietly beneath the surface until it's strong enough to rise into form. You are sensing their shift because their energy is beginning to soften, not to the world, but to you. Their soul is beginning to lean toward the light you've kept glowing, even in the dark. They feel your presence in the background of their thoughts, not as pressure, not as demand, but as peace. You have become their reminder of what is possible beyond fear, beyond their wounds, beyond what the world once told them love should be. And that is not a small thing. That is sacred work. So don't pull away now, not from them and not from yourself. This is not the time to close your heart again just because you're unsure when things will manifest. This is the time to stay open, to trust the flow, to believe that just because love hasn't arrived in the way you imagined, doesn't mean it isn't on its way in a form more beautiful than you expected. It's in motion, right now, and not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. Every time you chose to stay soft instead of shutting down, you moved closer. Every time you released resentment instead of clinging to pain, you created space. Every time you chose love over fear, even in private, you contributed to the rising of something holy between you and another soul. That matters. You may never fully understand how your energy, your hope, your light affected them. But know this, it did. It still does. And that's why they're being drawn back, not just to you, but to the version of themselves they never thought they could be. And now you're both learning what real love actually is. It's not intensity alone. It's not chaotic highs and crashing lows. It's not control. It's not fear, disguised as passion. It's peace. It's presence. It's truth. It's showing up. Not perfectly, but fully. That's what you're being called into. And they are too. Even if they don't have the language for it yet. Even if they're still untangling themselves from fear. The invitation has already been extended to their spirit. And they've already started walking toward it, toward you. There may not be grand gestures today. No message, no confirmation. But don't let that fool you. This isn't about a single moment. It's about a direction, about energy, about alignment. And alignment always shows up in reality when the spirit is ready. You are closer than you think. And when it does arrive, when love comes in the form it was always meant to, it won't feel like fireworks. It will feel like home, like peace, like something your soul never stopped believing in, even when your mind tried to forget. So breathe, be still, trust what you feel, not the fear, but the truth underneath it, that love is rising, that the work you've done matters, that they feel it, that God is behind every step, every shift, every silent echo of love returning to where it belongs. There is a quiet beauty in knowing that you no longer have to chase what's meant for you. You don't need to beg for clarity, cling to signs, or lose sleep trying to decode silence. When love is real, when it's divinely orchestrated, it comes with a sense of peace, even in its delay, even in its mystery. And that peace you're beginning to feel now isn't a coincidence. It's not detachment. It's not giving up. It's alignment. It's your soul finally exhaling after holding on for so long. You've walked through fire for this peace. You've sat in the shadows, unsure if anyone would ever truly see you. You've loved from a distance, and you've waited in silence. And yet, here you are, not hardened, not bitter, but wiser, softer, stronger. You've risen from spaces where you once felt invisible, and now you know your light isn't meant to be dimmed just to make others comfortable. You've tasted fear, but you've chosen love, again and again. That choice changes everything. And you're not alone in that shift, even if it seems like they're unaware, even if their words haven't changed, even if they've yet to show up at your door. The one who's been afraid, the one who couldn't love you fully before, they are being moved too. Their soul is stirring. Fear is starting to loosen its grip around their heart. The walls they built are beginning to show cracks, not because someone broke them, but because they're finally letting light in. Love is awakening where resistance once lived. Slowly, yes, but deeply. You may never know the exact moment it started. Maybe it was when you stopped pushing. Maybe it was when you chose yourself, not as a rejection of them, but as a sacred declaration of your own worth. Maybe it was when you finally said, "If it's real, it will come." That surrender sent a signal, not just to the universe, but to them. Energetically, spiritually, they felt the shift. And in that space, love began to rise, not in demand, but in freedom. This isn't about proving anything. You don't need to convince them to love you. Real love doesn't need convincing. It simply recognizes what's true. And your connection, whatever form it has taken, was never random. It wasn't a lesson in pain. It was a reminder of what the soul remembers, even when the mind forgets. That you are worthy of a love that sees you, chooses you, and stays. They are coming to that truth in their own way, in their own time. But the fear that kept them frozen, the fear that made them run or stay silent, is no longer in control. It's being replaced by something softer, something divine. Maybe they don't know what to do with it yet. Maybe they're still wrestling with vulnerability, unsure how to show up as the version of themselves you deserve. But that doesn't mean they're not moving. That doesn't mean they don't feel it. They do, more than you realize. Because love doesn't disappear. It may hide, it may go quiet, but it never vanishes when it's real. It lingers, it grows in the dark, and when it's guided by something greater than ego or fear, it returns, not as it was, but as it was always meant to be. And you're ready for it, not because you've waited perfectly, but because you've remained open, because you've stayed true to the hope inside you, even when doubt tried to drown it out. This journey hasn't been easy, but it's been sacred. Every unanswered question, every tear, every moment of surrender, it's brought you here, to this threshold, to this holy unfolding. And as fear exits the story, love steps in, not timidly, but boldly, not to test you, but to stay. You're not imagining the shift, you're feeling the divine alignment, and soon it won't just be a feeling, it will be reality. Let yourself receive that. Let yourself believe that love can return to the place it was once afraid to be, that the person who couldn't meet you before may now be finding the strength to come closer, not because you chased, but because you let go. because you trusted, because you stood in love's light, even when it was dark. And now, love is on its way home. Not rushed, not forced, but rising, because the fear that once stood in its path is finally gone. There's a sacred peace that arrives when you finally understand that you don't need to hold everything together anymore. That love, true love, doesn't require force. That healing doesn't mean rushing to the finish line, and timing is not your enemy, it's your ally. You've learned this in the stillness. You've learned this in the long nights of uncertainty. And now, you're walking in a new kind of knowing. A quiet, steady faith that doesn't scream for answers, but trusts the presence behind the silence. That presence has been guiding everything. And now, that presence is guiding love back to you. You no longer have to carry the weight of fear. It's not yours to hold. You've done your part. You've poured out your heart, surrendered what you could not control, and allowed yourself to believe again. That takes more courage than most will ever understand. And because of that courage, something inside you has shifted. You've stopped waiting from a place of lack, and you've started living from a place of trust. This is what alignment feels like. Not perfect circumstances, but perfect peace. Even while things are still coming together, they feel it too, even if they haven't spoken it, even if their actions haven't caught up with their emotions. There is a pull now, one they can't ignore. A recognition, a warmth that sneaks into their thoughts when they least expect it. They've felt you in their quietest moments, in their restlessness, in their reflection.